Welcome to Corporate Saheli Honey and Tech. So, as you all know, that in my channel, I always try to create an awareness through for the to make people's life easy. Okay, and during my journey when I started this channel, always asked that what kind of I've been asked many questions related to Excel, PowerPoint, or anything what I create. Okay, how I get the content and all. And since I've reached to mid-level manager level, so even I get inquiries from the youngsters who have just graduated, they are pursuing their studies and they want to understand how we can enter into the banking or finance industry. So whatever on a best effort basis, I always try to cover the question, but I thought of that I might be lacking somewhere to guide them. So with that thought, I've decided to take an experience, the feedback from the prominent vintage person who has spent over more than 2 decades in the industry. So I have connected Nikhil Parulkar sir. So welcome Nikhil sir. Nikhil sir is
Thank you.
CAP,
Thank you.
CAM, expert in the forensic accounting. He has also spent 2 decades in the industry where how the risk, how banker, move from the physical journey to the digital journey. So he has actually seen the banking growth. Okay, so he is a right person for the freshers and the person who is actually not sure that what kind of skills should have. You know, if and even the person who doesn't know that which department I should select, that whether I'm good in accounting, whether I'm good in finance decisioning. So all these things, I think Nikhil sir can contribute. So Nikhil sir, once again, welcome to my channel.
Thank you, Anisha.
Okay, so sir, can we start the questions?
Sure. Please go ahead. Yes.
Okay. So, Nikhil sir, just wanted to understand, like, what inspired? Like, now I have a person in my family. They are just giving their graduation. They're giving their graduation exam and all, and they're not sure. They have done their graduation or some related to the finance industry. So, what inspired you the most? Like to enter into the banking industry. What was the main thing in your mind when you started?
Okay. So a little bit backstory towards it.
Yes, sir.
I did my graduation in economics and commerce. So my major was economics and minor was commerce.
Okay.
So with that logic, I already had decided, but to enter into the environment of finance.
Yeah.
But there is the other side of me that I was more of a travel person. I'm more of a
Okay.
travel. So
Right.
I had two options. I had two options at that time. I'm talking about 1999 or 2000. That is almost 22 years before.
22 years, right?
So yes. So I was at that time an IATA certified travel management person, IATA certified. So I
Okay.
was doing this particular scenario and everything along with my finance. So there was nothing wrong in it. I liked the subject, but my
Hmm.
you can say a passion of traveling allowed me to go at that.
Hmm.
Unfortunately, the global situation at that time where 9 by 11 happened, 2001
Right.
in US,
Okay.
it brought down the entire travel industry at that
Lead
point of
industry
time.
too. Right.
Yes, they brought it to the standstill. So automatically, I was in a scenario where what am I supposed to do now? That although I am certified, I was working, I was barely around 6, 8 months into the system.
Okay. Okay.
So, and this happened. And after this, there was 2 year lull or something over a period, but I had to do something at that time. So I fell back on my degree, my finance environment.
Correct.
And that time, finance was rising because
Rising.
of the new banking license were coming in. Retail banking was taking a huge jump.
Hmm.
So let us say that one sector went down, other was upcoming.
There was
And
an
I needed,
opportunity. Right.
there was an opportunity. And that's where I entered into banking. So this is my journey for
Hmm.
I my passion probably lost in that time, but you had to do so I went into banking. But banking was a subject that I liked because I used to do my family's banking when I was in college. So
Okay.
my late father
Okay.
used to teach me a lot about banking, how to manage, how to do it. So banking was very much so everything from because that time there was no CBS, if you agree. There was no core banking solutions and all those at that time. When I'm saying around 94, 95. I used to do it from that time,
Huh.
finances. And that created a liking for me.
Okay. So like
And
that
that
time
is
you
the,
were right. So you were just like, 21 or 22-year old. I
yeah,
think
20,
that
20.
time taking
Yes,
a decision, switching the industry. I've seen the people like they get confused. They, waste for 1 or 2 years. They are not able to decide that what domain they should fix it. And
correct.
and that time even the social media, the facility what we have right now, it was not
It was
available,
not
and
there.
you have decided. So
I
it
agree.
was really good experience. I mean, I would have been that place. I would have taken a time what to decide. So
Right.
really great.
No, into the banking. And
Right.
the timing was perfect because in the college, when I was in my last year, that this is also a time where the BPO sector was booming. If you observe, if you check the
Right.
history of those times, 1998, 99, the BPO sector in India took a solid boom, a very big boom.
Okay.
And I had, because of certain college, everyone goes na interview
Right.
देने के लिए तो सब जाते हैं college में, इधर
Correct.
जाते हैं, and you share the locations. So I also went with one of my colleagues. I said there is one interview in Citibank. My first job was Citibank India. So
Okay.
Citibank में एक opportunity है, walk in है. If you want to go ahead and try. So I said, okay, you have done it. He said, हाँ मैं कल ही जाके आ गया. अंधेरी में था ना. That time I was in South Bombay. अंधेरी में था. So
Okay.
you go. So I took a half day from my college lectures, and I went over there, gave the interview. I forgot because I gave it, nothing came back. 1 year later, when the timing was so bad, I got a call that why don't you come back for an interview? I said,
Wow.
okay. And again, when I went over there, this was my second round.
Okay. So
After
earlier,
8 months,
sir, there was a phase even the interviewer used to take a time to decide it. Nowadays, it's
yes,
so quick. In a 1 hour or so,
yes,
you get a confirmation whether you are shortlisted or not. But earlier, we were
absolutely.
having a hope for after 1 month also that there are chances that I'll get a call.
Very true. Very true.
Right?
Very true.
Right.
Yes.
So my second question is again connected to first question only, that how the freshers can decide it. How freshers can decide, yeah, what are the
In today's
steps they have to
environment,
take?
okay. So in today's environment, thanks to social media, you have lot of pros and cons that are given to you. These are based on various individuals' understandings, right? In the banking, let me tell you the fundamental of banking. Most of us agree to it, but this is how we were given banking when I first joined.
Right.
I was given a training for what, 1.5. That time there was no social media, there was no mobile phone also. Let me honestly
Correct.
tell you. In 2000, 2001, when I always say I entered the job market at the turn of the century. At the turn of the century from
Actually.
2001 till
Right.
yeah.
Right.
So at that time there were no mobile phones. So research was not much, and even internet was not, penetration was not so much. You used to rely on those the phones, the connectivity through the dial-up network, not the LAN or internet and all that. So in those times, getting information was very difficult. So we had to learn the hard way.
Right.
Unlike today, when you have everything at the touch of your finger.
Right.
Right. So we spent a lot of 1.5 month in trainings when I first entered Citibank. The fundamental which we were taught was two parameters, which holds true today. Maybe we have digressed a little, but the fundamentals still remain the same, hopefully. That bank and bankers are custodians of public money.
Right.
That is the fundamental. It cannot do. And banking is more about risk management rather than any other thing across.
Right. So with this experience, when I was earlier started my experience into the broking firm, and when I moved to the banking industry, one senior person told me that we are a corporate soldier. Like how
Yes.
the cops and the military service the nation, that way the bankers and the people from the finance industry actually responsible custodian for the finance, for the money the customers are
Correct.
depositing. Yeah.
Absolutely, what you're saying is correct. That is how the role is defined for a corporate banker. Because just like in social environment, in the social fabric that we are dealing with, a police has to guard the social fabric in
Hmm.
the environment. Similarly, we as corporate, as you rightly say, corporate soldiers, we are guarding the public money who is entrusting us with that money,
Hmm.
right? And based on that, we have to ensure that that trust is not broken. So the governance and the risk management plays a much larger role in the banking sector. And that is why at every level, see, I'm not saying that you have to be a fraud risk manager to understand banking. No, it is not. Because when I started my career, I never investigated frauds for
Hmm.
at least 3.5, 4 years of my time.
Right.
I started with service for a year or so, then moved to operations, then moved to sales, and then moved to fraud. So this
Hmm.
was a journey.
This is the journey, the process.
This is the
Right.
journey. That is the process. Because in a financial sector, especially in bank or NBFC, whichever sector, I would say, which is we all form a larger environment or an umbrella environment for
Huh.
the banking.
Huh.
And since then and today, I hold this view that banking as a profession, as a profile, or as a risk manager, any role that you take, banking is the fundamental of the country's economic backbone.
Right.
Everything circulates around that. So that has to be protected at all costs. That is more important. We may talk about growth, hyper growth, everything. But I
Right.
feel as a banker, after all these years, it is more of protecting the backbone of the Indian financial system is more important than growth. Because if the system stands protected, growth automatically happens. It is not that uh, first is growth and then is the system. First is the
Right.
system, then is the growth. That is how
Right.
it is.
Right. So, like a person who is just starting, because we spend some amount of years of in the industry, so we understand the accountability, the responsibility. But how like the freshers will understand? Like if I've just passed my graduation, I had a subject like tax, accounts, economics. At my
Right.
time, I think it was OC or SP. Nowadays, there are many different subjects are there in the
Correct.
college. So like how I can decide, I am interested into the accounts department, I'm interested into forensic investigation, because right, definitely social media is there, but now too many options are making confused, and I am not actually able to identify my own potential, that what how I can, as a fresher, as a 20 25 year old, how I can decide that which department will be suitable for.
Correct. So first important thing is getting into the system. I
Hmm.
always believe this is the first step. First is
Right.
getting into the system. So if you get an opportunity, you have to first move to that particular environment. Now, I may say that you may not have that leverage at that point to get
Right.
into the choice that you want, which is
Right.
fair. I am not denying that. Because as I said before also, it is a process. I never knew myself also that 4 years later, I will do better investigations and I will love that job. So
Correct.
I started with something, but now if you look at this type of similar journey, I actually learned investigation or skill or liking because of my last three profile. I was able to understand service. I was able to understand operations. I was able to understand sales. So I know the
Right.
business cycle of the banking. Because I know business cycle, my skill of investigation proved valuable.
Right.
This is how you will learn. So basically, at the first stage, you must enter into the organization to explore it first. I am sure that you have a thought process before entering that, look, I want to enter into a forensic field. I want to enter into vigilance. Let's say I
Right.
want to enter internal audit. But you were given an opportunity to enter operations. Nothing
Right.
wrong in it. At least learn the part, because that learning will develop an understanding
Enhance
and
the
knowledge
skills.
so that you have, and probably most of the organizations today have open job postings internally, and they help you to grow across in the organization.
Across the year.
Once you get that department of your liking, you will then develop skills on your own,
Oh,
and these skills you will start implementing. That is how we do it.
Right.
No one can know on the first attempt that you will be good in something or
Right.
something. A person, I know some of my peers and my colleagues also, they started with forensic and fraud investigation, but they were not satisfied. They were not. They did, but when they went into product or product environment or something, they were quite satisfied.
Right.
So they grew in that line or that segment much better and much larger. It's
Okay.
not necessary you will grow in every one organization. You may move out, but then you take a path for yourself and there you go in a pattern. That is how it is.
Right. Right. Perfectly said.
So a little bit of perseverance. As a trainer myself in college nowadays, I also get these questions. They come to me after 6 months. These young students who get pre-placement offers.
Right.
Sir, I joined this bank, XYZ bank, let's say it. And it's been 6 months. I'm not getting excited. I'm not getting. I said, 6 months is absolutely nothing to learn anything in the organization.
Right.
Anything. Because the first 2 months you are training, you are in your internal trainings and learning the organization, learning the systems and everything. How can you become a expert? Let's say expert is a little far away. How can you become more knowledgeable within 6 months?
Within
It's
6
not
months.
possible.
Right. Not
You
possible.
need to have a little perseverance to go through the path. You should not waver during this interim period, because this is actually, I feel, for the youngsters, this could become your dream killer. Because if you're not giving your own self a little bit of time to know the system, to know your segment, to know your profile, it won't work.
Right.
That
So
is
they should
the point
actually
that
ask why we are into this process. They have to understand, deep dive the process, right?
absolutely right. Correct. That is how they will have to do it, because this is self-learning. See, education or a degree will get you the foot in the door. That is all it will give you at that point of time. Once you are inside the door, the arena is wide open. You must learn to see every facets of that arena, so that you are going internally and decide, this is what I want to do as specialization over a period of time. This is what I want to do, or risk, or vigilance, or sales, operation, product, KYC. There are, in the financial sector, let me tell you, especially banking, there are a lot of opportunities.
Lot of
Nothing is a done deal kind of an environment that you can see. I can tell you that as a banker myself, I have moved a lot, but my passion was always forensics, so I stayed there. That's how it is. But I started growing every point of time based on market changes, regulatory changes, and everything. So you grow with the flow over a period.
Right. Understood. So, like, what skills, like in 2024, okay, if I am going for an interview, okay, one graduate or MCOM passed visit for an interview.
Yes.
So, what, like HR or any department is later. In fact, in the banking industry, I had experienced that I have given interview for one thing, and I was a part of a different unit. Okay, so they just see your skill set, your communication skill and everything. So what are the must-have skills,
Okay.
to enter into the industry?
The current must-have skills is holistic knowledge. I repeat, holistic knowledge.
Okay.
Many times what happens is, my time, I'll tell you my time. When my time was, my late father, who is also a kind of a mentor to me, he
Okay.
always said, jack of all trades, master of none. There was a
Master
time
of
when
none.
this, yeah. Today, the same change has happened and says, jack of all and master of one. Instead of none, you have to be a master of one and jack of all. So that is why I said holistic environment is becoming critical. Okay. So as a forensic auditor, let me give you a profile, a basic profile.
Right.
If you, let's say you are a fresher, you have learned a lot social media, you have studied, you have worked it, and you say that you want to go into a forensic environment.
Mm.
Fair. Now, what you have to do to get into that environment is you need to know a combination of skills.
Mm.
You have accounting skills, fair. You have auditing skills, again acceptable. Now you need to understand economics. You
Economic.
must also understand geopolitics. Most important, investigative tactics and skills, how to do it. Because some of them are soft environment, some of them are technical, and some of them are hard knowledge environment. So that is why you will have to have a combination. That's why I said master of one and jack of all.
Jack of all.
That is the exactly. So
Exactly.
when you have to get into that environment, you have to develop. And my simple solution is start reading a lot of stuff. It may not always be to your subject, but everything under the sun. Because knowledge has to be embraced. You
Correct.
cannot say that it is not related to me. It has nothing to do with me. You never know in your career when whatever you are saying no today will actually
You'll have
become
to deal
critical
with it.
tomorrow.
Right.
Exactly. So never say no, always embrace. I have seen a lot of such of my juniors in the bank. They used to tell me, sir, इसका ये सब का knowledge का मैं क्या करूंगा, मेरे को इसमें कोई interest नहीं, मेरे को कोई knowledge भी नहीं, मेरे को करना भी नहीं. When you
Mm.
say like that, you are stopping yourself
Stopping.
from
Mm.
learning. You should never do that. You may not use it today, but somewhere down the line you will require it, and this will help you to maintain a larger picture of events. When you grow over a period of time, you have to grow not just in the system, but in the ecosystem. Ecosystem becomes important over a period.
Right.
So you will not stay 21, 22, or 25 at that. You will become 30, you will become 35. At that time, whatever you learned, you will have to grow with that.
Right. Right.
So this is the difference.
Right.
And
So
students today or youngsters today must start with this idea. Only then the flow will happen.
completely. So, sir, I would like to tell you about my experience. So, I used to always limit myself about whatever the work I do. Okay. When I became a part of a task force group, I've seen you giving so many insightful thought process, so much clear, and you are taking a stand of any policy, be it the US policy change in the any domain, or but your view, your thought process really inspire me. That time I realized that no, Hanisha, you should not limit yourself. So I normally, whenever I in my traveling time, I read your whatever you speak in the group. I definitely read it and try to learn so many things, and it's really helping because in the next day when we go for a cup of tea or with the corporate seniors and all. So apart from the work or anything, we can speak something which is actually
Correct.
changing in the economy. So it is really required, and it has actually affected to my life also. So I would really like to
Very
tell,
good.
right, family member of Corporate Saheli, that this is really a big point that you should have an insight and you should grasp everything, deep dive
Correct.
the process.
Yes, deep dive the process. Very important. Because without it, I have realized in a larger for me also, it doesn't work. So, and most important thing is this learning can be enhanced over the period by doing a lot of other certifications. So they give you technical knowledge. See the future in the time of AI, the coming AI. See today it is a gray area. I agree.
Mm.
And finance is one area where AI, we may talk about ease of business, but without a proper risk management understanding, we cannot enter into that. So
Right.
there requires a lot of debate and everything to be done. So there is there. But I have realized now that a banker of the future, uh, although I am also part of it, still, although I may not be in the bank, but as a heart, I am still a good old-fashioned banker
No,
in the
no,
heart.
sir.
So that is the only thing, and you require a combination of techno-functional knowledge going forward. Remember,
So that means
it's not
AI
just
ML,
functional.
to identify the risk, you should understand what is AI
Yes,
ML. Right.
I always tell this to my students. Look, if you ask me today to do networking skills or
Hmm.
while doing a cyber investigation, I also do cyber in
Hmm.
the financial sector, but I may not be the technical person to conduct hashing, imaging, because it requires technical. But I know why is that required, what is the impact analysis of it, where and how it is going to be used, and more important, when it goes out of my circle of control into the legal domain, that is law enforcement and legal, what are the implications? And so it is a full end-to-end process.
Hmm.
So that is why you need to know both. That's why I said techno-functional knowledge development is your future as a banker.
Right.
If
Techno
you are at
function.
a very early, yes, you start now, it will lead you to a better, larger picture in the, because you will require to do lot of troubleshooting going forward. Investigation is also a lot of troubleshooting,
Troubleshooting. Right. So,
and that is why this.
right. So, like when we talk about this banking industry, so like my father used to say that he thinks that banking job is only like 9 to bank band ho jata hai 1 baje, and then you again start at 5 o'clock and then 5 to 7. Okay. So there are some misconceptions. So when I come late home, even my family asks that it is not like banking. So any other example. So there are certain misconception. Would you like to share? Like you spend so much of your experience is
Yes.
time in the industry. So, any misconception in the industry?
See, there are certain misconceptions. What you said is right. In the good old days, it was supposed to be in my time also. So one of my relative is in the financial sector. So everybody in the family used to say this is the best, safest job in the world. That you go at 9:30 in the morning and come back at 5:36 in the evening and all that. But when I joined, I said this is a misconception. There is no such thing as 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. On the contrary, the risk that I am handling is taking a lot of my time more to do in this environment rather than 9 to 5. It is no longer what I used to see in my time when I used to go to a bank when CBS and technology was not there. The passbook used to get updated. You're updating a passbook through paper and
Standing in
pen
the
and all
queue.
that. Yes, taking a token for cash withdrawal and doing all that environment to today. So it is totally different. Today, a bank works 24 by 7, 365 days. If not physically, then through internet, mobile banking, and various other environment. And the risks are there. So if as a forensic accountant, let me tell you, fraud can happen at 12 o'clock midnight. Some system may hit you, something may hit you or don't. You come to know in the early morning. So by the time you are entering on your office, there will be a inbox email stating that yesterday something happened like this. There was a small breach. There was this. So now starts your troubleshooting. That's what I was trying to say. What happened? What data got compromised? Did not get compromised? What is the loophole? How do you get it done? And everything. So it is no longer a 9 to 5 environment.
Okay. Right.
It's no
So,
longer like that.
yes, but then I really want to say to the audience that this is an accountable job. Like you will feel that accountability, like when you are a great winner of the house, when you feel the responsibility. So if you love this job and also you will not mind these hours, okay? But then you feel
Absolutely.
accountable, responsible, and you are actually serving to the nation. But then this kind of misconception are gone. But then you would love your work. So,
Yes.
investigation, risk management is a job. Once you understand deep dive anything, I think you will start loving your work.
Absolutely. See, investigation, I'll tell you one fact, just sharing my experience in my
Sure, sir.
early days.
Hmm.
I caught my first fraud as a salesperson. I was not in fraud risk.
Hmm.
I caught my first fraud as a salesperson. And that time also, when somebody told me that this is not your work, तुमको target achieve करना है. See, your job is achieving target. But I said, look, it was a personal loan scenario, and giving a personal loan for such key red flags and this
Hmm.
thing, these are the discussions with the customer. I still don't feel that he is credit worthy to give this much amount and all that. So he said, what do you want to do? My line manager at that time said, what do you want to do? I think we should give it to someone who can investigate, because you said this, but this is my key red flags which I have highlighted. Okay, so what you do is you write an email to that fraud control unit and they will take it up. So I wrote this, what I found and everything. And later they took over. I did not bother after this because it was not my role. Later, 2 months later, I got a call from the head of the FRM team and said, can you meet us on, we are in the same floors in the building and come and meet me. So I said, so he asked me the first question, how did you find out about it? So I said, when I was selling him the loan, this was the issue. Then he spoke like this. It created a kind of thing in my mind कि ये सही नहीं है. It's too good to be true. How can it be possible? Market भी ऐसे नहीं बता रहा है अभी. तो ये लोन का अगर ये इसने मिसयूज किया तो ये पॉसिबिलिटी हो सकती है. So he heard me very well and he said, you are absolutely right, because after you gave us this email and we investigated this case, all the 4 pointers which you said were perfectly fitting. He was going to use our loan for cash funding.
Right.
So I said, so that's why I said, then later during one of the meetings, he said, have you thought about going to risk management investigation? I said, अभी तो ऐसा कुछ सोचा नहीं है, कभी so सोच लेंगे if there is. So he looked at later.
Yeah. So, how, for example, I've joined the bank. Okay, I want to understand the industry trends, the regulations. Okay,
Yes.
anyone from like product or policy or sales department, how they can be updated. Definitely, like times and all. But then, do you suggest any newsletter or anything? How I can be updated? Because we have to do our work also and stay updated for the rules and regulation also. So as a to stand out the different person in the team, I have to be updated about the rules, regulation, trends, pattern in the market. So what is the suggestion from you, sir?
See, here there are multiple ways to do it. First important thing is internal that you get. Most likely the compliance teams in organizations stay aware of all the trends and changing. Majority of the time as a bank, you are not just only a banker, you are doing a lot of things. In a bank, it's like an umbrella organization. So you are doing wholesale, you are doing retail, right? So you are doing various other products, including broking. And as you said, depending on the size of the bank, depending on the overall structure. So keeping in touch with them has to have in a particular manner. Now, first stage would be the internal compliance team. They should ideally have all these informations in place. And most importantly, they should be circulated. There are various scenarios. Yeah, various scenarios that I myself come across that these are not circulated. Or if they are circulated, they are only circulated to that department that has that requirement. So let's say if it is related to finance, it will go only to finance. Or if it is about KYC or a policy level, it will go to RBI's circular to policy. What happens in this case is certain environments are left out, like risk or credit or any. So here there has to be a synergy. That is, if compliance is sending certain alerts, it should go to each and every department of the organization critical to that role, not just the maker of that role, including the checker of that role also.
So kind of a global mailer or the policies or any workline platform available from the organization. So person has to refer that policy, refer the global mail. So like we have a habit, even I have seen the juniors just delete global mail. There is a unique common email ID, they just delete. But then if you want to be updated, you want to know each and everything, you should read that mail. What is that mail meant to be? Why? What is the purpose? That way you will understand the complete organization structure, policies, and the development.
Because many times in one of my old job in the bank, I found it really difficult to navigate because whom to ask, what to ask, who does what. It was not very clear.
It's
It
difficult,
was
right?
not very clear. Yeah, it's very difficult, especially if your organization size is very big and you need to know whom to approach, whom not to approach, right? Majority of the time, this is the biggest problem and how it is being done. So the roles are also very diverse. So your KYC part in the policy is handled by two different teams. So if you ask one team, this is I am not doing, that is one is so there is a lot of gaps over here. But the
Coordination is
best
not.
way, yes, yes. And but the best way to do it is within the organization at the compliance. So one owner of the information or repository should have it to share it appropriately with everyone. That is the way to look at it. Because
Right.
these changes are critical. These changes are critical because it's like this. Gold loans, what is happening today in the market? There are two institutions who are in the media currently who are being questioned for that, who are being
Okay.
questioned on gold loan.
Hmm.
But if anyone ordinarily a liabilities or somebody in the fraud risk environment is asked about what is the status, he would not know what is the gold loan. I don't handle the product, so I am not aware.
Correct.
A risk manager has to be aware because this is what we learned in the good old days. In my time, I'll give you
Hmm.
one small example.
Yes, sir.
I was handling payment products.
Hmm.
My second role in the banking was with, as you are also been a part of that great institution, ICICI Bank. I was also a part of that. So that time, uh, I was in a part of the payment products unit. So on one fine day, I will get in my inbox a credit card fraud case that I have to investigate, whether it is at an application fraud level, whether it is at a transaction level, or whether fraudulent transaction. All that part was,
Hmm.
and I will work on that.
Hmm.
Next day, I would probably get a liabilities or a CASA fraud case
Hmm.
where a KYC is of a question or something. The third day or at the end of the week, I will be put on for bill discounting, letter of credit fraud. So that will be my third
Different
case.
modus
So
operandi.
different. So what has happened for in my cases, I learned all the holistic approach. And I realized, hey, if there is a LC fraud happening, then the CASA account should be monitored properly. LCBD may you have to monitor the liabilities account. But
Hmm.
today, when I see everybody is given a silos, a liability person will only do liability. A
Hmm.
commercial vehicle will do only commercial. They don't know what the left and the right is doing. And that is a very big disadvantage, I find.
Okay.
Very
Hmm.
big disadvantage. Because
Hmm.
you need to know the cycle to
Cycle.
know how the things,
Right.
right? So that is what we learned in ICICI in my time. That is why we are much better to look at it. अगर retail में अगर ऐसा हुआ है, this type of fraud has happened, then its impact can be felt on the corporate side because they also have a corporate relationship with us. So
Hmm.
where are the risk parameters over there? You start looking at those environments because it cannot work in isolation. Just because something happened in retail, nothing will happen in corporate. No, it doesn't work that way. Or if something happened in corporate will not happen in retail. No,
Right.
there will always be ripple effects flowing somewhere.
So risk
It may not
assessment
happen in
must be
CA.
done. With the learning, we should do the risk assessment for all other segments also. This is what
Yes.
you are saying. Correct.
This is exactly what RBI in their YH Malegam committee recommendations have also said that you will look at the borrower not just at that entity or that environment that you have given the loan or lending to. You will look it as a group as a whole. Now, why are they saying like this? If I start saying my risk is on this entity or only this entity, but I will not look at the other umbrella organization